So one of my absolute favourite saints, the saint who's probably been my favourite saint for the longest, is one who I'm sure most of you will know, at least you will have heard of, Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, also known as the Little Flower. I've had a deep love for Saint Thérèse ever since I was quite small. So Thérèse was one of 9 children, big Catholic family, living in France in the 1800s. 4 of her siblings died when they were quite young, and she grew up with her 4 big sisters. So they were a very happy, devout Catholic family. Sadly, her mother died when she was about 4 years old, and her father and her 4 sisters ended up moving to Lisieux from Alençon so that they would be closer to their uncle and aunt and their cousins. Thérèse was always she was always a very, I don't want to say holy child, her faith always meant a lot to her. She loved her family, she loved God, and she felt the stirrings of religious life, the desire for religious life from quite an early age. When she was, I think it was when she was about 10, she was very ill, and her family worried that she wasn't going to survive, but whilst she was in bed, very ill, her family were all praying for her. She received a vision of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Our Lady of the Smile, and she smiled upon her, and from that moment Thérèse knew that she would be well again, and she made a full recovery just about. Thérèse just was filled with this overwhelming certainty of the love of God for her and the love of Our Lady for her, and she really wanted to give the whole of herself to that love, to serving God with all that she was, and to offering sacrifices for the conversion of sinners, for the salvation of mankind. As I say, Saint Thérèse, she wanted to be religious, she wanted to be a Carmelite nun from a very young age. 2 of her sisters, her oldest 2 sisters, Marie and Pauline, already entered the Carmelite monastery in Lisieux when she was, in her sort of early teens, and she decided she wanted to go there too. And despite all of the obstacles, she actually entered the Lisieux Carmelite when she was 15 years old, very, very young. As a 15-year-old, was now within the Lisieux Carmelite monastery and was able to give her life completely as she had wanted to do, to God, to good works, to prayer and to penance. And it was through, really, although you might say she's actually, it looks like she's removed from the world because she's living a completely enclosed life, not going out into the world anymore. It's through this hidden life that she was able to love God and to really spread that love, to be that love in the heart of the church, as she herself put it, and in that way to bring so many more people to know and to love Jesus as much as she did. She lived a very short life. She only actually lived until she was 24 years old when she died of tuberculosis. But very shortly after her death, miracles started happening. She wrote her autobiography before she died for her sisters, which is called The Story of a Soul, very, very famous. And her sisters had it published after she died. And through reading this, so many people just grew to absolutely fall in love with her and to fall in love with God because of the simplicity with which she was able to explain his, deep and overwhelming love for his love for us. This sort of really comes round to why I love Saint Thérèse for so many reasons. She's most famous really for what is known as her little way, which is really sort of the principle that we can grow in holiness and we can come to God, we don't have to do anything huge and spectacular to do that, but we can do it by offering him all of the tiny things in our life. Every little annoyance can become an opportunity to grow in love and to so grow closer to God. Thérèse herself, she, in her youth, she loved Joan of Arc. She always had a great love for St. Joan of Arc, and part of her wanted to be a great missionary, riding out into other countries and spreading the faith, or charging out into battle and being a martyr. But she recognised in herself that that wasn't the stuff that she was made of. God had made her very little, in her own words. She didn't have that physical strength that would be needed to live that sort of dramatic witness of the faith. But she recognised that God had made her in this specific way for a reason, and that he loved her exactly as she was, and that he was calling her to be completely who she was, and to love him and to grow in holiness in all of these little things that she could give to him. So I find that very encouraging, actually, because I don't think I'm cut out for big acts of virtue, and the thought of being martyred, I'm still getting around that one. I'm not sure that's what my path is being called to, but I, like Thérèse, and can grow in holiness by offering God all of the small moments of my life. The other thing I find really encouraging about Thérèse is just her absolute conviction in the merciful love of God. There's a quote from her that I really love, which I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know it perfectly, but she says that even if she'd committed every mortal sin it was possible to commit, she would still go and, her heart broken with repentance and sorrow, throw herself into the love of Jesus, into the arms of Jesus, because she knows how much he loves the repentant sinner who returns to him, the prodigal son who returns to him. And Saint Thérèse, she lived in an age when there was a lot of emphasis put on like the justice of God and the idea of the wrath of God and his abhorrence for sin, and there was this idea that he was an exacting God, and you had to like make up for every tiny thing that you'd ever done wrong and just live this absolute life of rigid perfection, otherwise you weren't going to make it into heaven. Whereas Thérèse really recognised that God's love for us is the love of a good father for his children, and he wants us, he wants all of us. And he is the one who saves us. It's not by our own merits that we are saved. And if we go to him in complete confidence and tell him, I'm weak, I can't do this by myself, I need you, I need your love, he will always give us what it is that we need to grow in holiness and to come closer and closer to him. I hope that that's been helpful. I would really recommend you look up Thérèse, read her autobiography, read various books that there are about her. The other thing that I just think is great with Thérèse, because she lived in the 1800s, there are actual photographs of her, and I think so much of her character just comes across in those real pictures of her face. So I hope that this helps, and say a prayer to her, ask her to help you grow in your confidence and love of God as she had.